Hey, hey, happy Thursday. Hey, hey, welcome to Lighten Up with Latisha. I am your host, Latisha. Of course, welcome and happy Thursday to you. We are back for another live on Throwback Thursday so that we can chat it up. Lighten up with Letitia is set up for us to lighten up our load, lift each other up, and then laugh all the way through it. With just a little sprinkle of nostalgia, which is why we are covering the best man final chapters because this is all about the nostalgia for us. Especially if you're around my age, you remember the 90s when Best Man came out, and then you remember when Best Man Holiday came out. So being able to continue that story and see those characters that we saw come to life so many years ago, and to see the continuance, to see the children, and all that stuff, is so very exciting. But it also allows for us to look at the show, with our own eyes, and look at our own lives to see, oh wow, look how relatable these things can be. We're talking about family and careers and relationships and friendships and how we navigate life through all of those things. So with Lighten Up with Letitia, we're tackling, these everyday real issues, and we're doing so with laughter and nostalgia. So welcome, welcome, welcome. We're just gonna jump right in to start talking about it because we're doing recaps and then also discussions. So let me just do my commercial first. This channel is really new. We're just starting off on this platform with Lighten Up with Latisha. So I appreciate all the people who joined me in on Instagram the last couple of months. And now we're moving over here to be able to broaden up the audience as well as just to have a bit more capability. And so we've talked about so many different things, black sitcoms, and we're gonna actually, because I want to be able to discuss it again with a bigger audience, we're gonna bring those videos over here. We're gonna talk about it again. The black sitcom topics that we had over on Instagram. I mean, feel free to go over there and watch them because we still had a good time. But I'd love to be able to broaden the conversation. So don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe, of course. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Don't forget to like the page on Facebook, wherever you're joining me from. I appreciate you being here. So go ahead and let's get started. So we've already talked about chapters 1, 2, 3, and 4, where we've gotten right back into the swing of things because the gang's all back. So we're getting updates on everybody's lives. And now we're starting to truly get into the mess, as our lives can sometimes be. I mean, life is very complicated. And when you insert people's feelings and thoughts and resentments from before and the changes that people make, you find that life can be very complicated, but it's all good. If we're doing it together, again, it's all good. So, chapter 5, we're starting off again. We're going to be recapping and then chatting it up. Chapter 5 is called The Party. So, we're talking about the party. And so it starts off where Jordan is on a date with Demetrius. So we see that this is the very beginning where we're starting to see her, Jordan, get her groove back or get back into the dating scene. And they meet up for this neo soul type vibes date. part of me was wondering if they were going to have a Lorenz Tate cameo, or maybe Darius walking by. That would have been so cute, kind of a crossover thing. Okay, so I can see that y'all in the building, but I can't see who you are till you comment. So can you go ahead and comment? Let me know who's here. Let me know, did you watch? Let me know who you are. I want you to interact with me so we can have a real chat about this. Now, meanwhile, Shelby is having hot flashes while she's planning this holiday party. And she doesn't want to, pretty much grow up. She doesn't want to get older. And then Quinn, of course, asked about the sellout conversation that he had with his dad. We talked about this last week and how this is a very real thing for Black-owned businesses, and how do we want to keep them Black-owned, keep them in the family, keep them family-owned, or do we have to take on investments or even sell off the property to make a bigger profit? It's all about what it is that your family decides. Hey, Kelly, you wa- you watched all the chapters 2 times. Um, I think I have too, to be honest. I think my me watching them again for us to do recaps, I think is like my third time watching it. So I like to watch stuff to just enjoy it the first time, and then I go back and then analyze it and have my questions, put my questions together and all that sort of thing afterwards. But I want to enjoy it the first time. So, and then I find that when you watch it more than one time, you miss things. I mean, you find things that you missed the first time. So that's real cool. So Murch, or Julian, starts to train. He's considering MMA fighting, and he's beginning to train. I started off as just, a releasing of stress. He wanted to get some things off of his chest, and he needed to be able to channel that energy, not to be aggressive on the outside. So if he did so in the gym, he will be able to get that energy out. And he was told that he's a natural. So again, he begins to consider competing. Then we go over to Mia and Robin and little Mia, and they're walking, and you can see here where Robin's heart is. She's a giver, so she saw a homeless woman on the street, and she had asked her if she wanted a sandwich. She gave her a sandwich. Her daughter said, "Oh, but mommy, wasn't that our snack?" She said, "Yes, but we still have snacks at home." So you see where she is, trying to impart into her daughter that it's, better to give than to receive all the time. So then they meet up with Mr. Ja, who was her farmer, the one that gave her the Mitaki mushrooms. And Ja is very excited to see both of them. He seems to really know little Mia, so you know that they've basically spent time with him. And he goes to show them a restaurant that was available. Now, what I love about this scene is that, and I'm gonna talk about it a little bit later on because I kind of have a bone to pick with Ja. But what I liked about the scene was that Robin was so excited about it, but Job pretty much, like, he listened to the dreams that Robin had, which is something unfortunately she does not get with Harper. And that man listened to her and he said, "Yeah, weren't you interested in having like a jazz restaurant? I know you talked about it." She said, "Yeah, but that was just a dream." And he said, "Well, basically he started encouraging her. Well, you can do this, you can do this. Come on. Here's the information. I have a friend that's the owner, but it's not gonna stay long, so you may want to jump on it really quickly." So she calls Harper to have him check it out, and then that's when they notice that the house is cold and that the thermostat is not working. So more to come on that. Um, then Lance and LJ are sitting down. They're watching footage of football because Lance really wants LJ to get back into football. And thankfully, Lance gets a call from little Faith, the little sister, about breaking the ornament that Mia had. Whatever, she's very upset. Thankfully, LG was able to basically escape that conversation because they decided they wanted to go and meet up with Kennedy. So LJ and Kennedy do meet up like really good friends. They're doing makeup, they're talking and talking about their he or I'm sorry, they are talking about Lance and how you know they talked about their problems, but then also they would say, "Hey, let's just have some fun." So they started doing makeup. They started dressing up, wigs, clothes, doing the walks. They started doing the TikToks. Let me see you walk, 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 walk. So they were, doing the videos, but the music was so loud, and Quentin was upstairs trying to handle business on the telephone. He runs downstairs to tell them to cut out all the noise and sees that LJ is walking with wig, lipstick, all of that. He's a little stunned, but he says, okay, well, whatever y'all are doing, just keep it down. Now, he's visibly shook about it, and then he'll go and talk to friends in just a minute. Now, meanwhile, Murch is still practicing, getting ready to compete. He's starting to find himself. And I love this for Murch because we'll talk about a little bit later on about how he is feeling as a person right now, and him being able to compete and getting ready and just doing something for himself is something that I feel like we don't always get a chance to see. um I'm a black woman, so I speak from a black woman's perspective and how we are very much so pushing for black women to rest and to be relaxed and to live a soft life. But sometimes we forget about black men. I'm not saying we do, but I don't think it's shown as much for black men to say, I want to take out time specifically for myself to do things that I'm interested in doing that doesn't include anybody else. No family, no, significant other, no friends. It's just for me. So I love seeing this for Merch. So then we get to the conversation. This scene was really funny. Quentin, who is the godfather of the Sullivan children, calls Jordan, who is the godmother of the Sullivan children. He's like, what is non-bindering? So this clues in to Jordan that, okay, you must have talked to LJ at some point, and it's non-binary. And so they end up on this four-way call where they called Murch. I'm not sure why they called Murch because they knew that he couldn't keep a secret. And then they were trying to call Harper, but Harper couldn't talk. So Harper was texting and Shelby got on the phone. And they all were trying to figure out, oh my gosh, what are we going to do? We need to tell Lance, And Jordan is saying, no, I am not going to out them. When they are ready, meaning LJ is ready to tell Lance, they will. And I don't think that we should, out them. So they all agreed. The consensus was they would wait, and we'll see how it plays out a little bit later in this episode. So then Demetrius and Jordan have dinner. I think he made dinner for them. It was a really nice atmosphere. He seems to be doing well, and he seems to be really trying to get back into Jordan's good graces because she does not trust him. Now, apparently, they went together. They were together back in college in their 20s, but she said, "Yeah, okay, whatever. I don't trust you." So she's not trusting him. I think she's trying, but there's still something that she's not seeing for him. But he begins to notice that she has a migraine. And the one thing he does was he helped her kind of release the tension of the headache by using reflexology on her. And he even mentioned, yeah, I remember he remembers having ulcers before and was able to, do some research and heal himself of those things, learning to listen to his body. So that was interesting. And the clue for us to listen to our bodies and to look into more, say, natural remedies, like for reflexology. They say that reflexology, how you press on, I guess it's hands too, but I thought it was just the foot. But however you press on your foot or certain parts of your hands can relieve tension and pain in other parts of your body. So that just goes to speak of just how good God is. He made us in a way that we could, heal ourselves from aches and pains and not have to throw medicine at it or something unnatural. So now we get to New Year's and everybody talking about their plans. And oh, I'm sorry, they didn't get to New Year's. They're talking about New Year's and their plans. And Jordan was basically like, "Yeah, I'm going to my friend's party." He was like, "I was hoping you would be able to, you'd go to Paris with me on this private jet." And she turned down the private jet, y'all, so she could go to a holiday party with friends that she sees all the time. But okay, I mean, her loyalty is honorable. But even Shelby said at the party later on, "Girl, I can't believe you passed that up. What the heck?" Anyway, moving on. To me, what that said was that Jordan is just not that into this man, but we'll see. So now Lance is scrolling through social media. He comes across Jasmine, which was the tour operator back in San Pierre. And he's looking through her profile and everything, and he accidentally calls her. You know how that messenger thing works. Accidentally calling folks. I block people who called me on Messenger. I mean that I don't know. I've had call that's so weird. I've had people call me on Instagram, had people call me on Messenger, like, why would you just randomly message people that you don't know? I mean, why would you randomly call them? That's so weird. So anyway, he accidentally calls her, and he hurried up and hung up. And she called back, and then they get to chatting or whatever. She's still very friendly, and he gave updates on the kids. Meanwhile, over at Murch and Candy's house, Keisha is having a panic attack because she's the daughter with the anxiety. Because she doesn't know what to wear to the party. She pulled out these three flashy gold dresses. To me, I guess they did look a little different, but to me, they pretty much look the same. She was having a panic attack about um, being perfect and having the right one because why? Because Kennedy is always so IG ready and LJ and just she can be. And then the other sister comes down and is like, oh my gosh, I really don't want to go. um, as much as we love them, Kennedy can be really a lot and kind of judgy. So the girls decided not to go. Now, when I brought that up and talked about it more, not broadly, but more in depth, because I think this is something that people really need to pay attention to if you see your teenagers dealing with this, because as a content creator myself, I deal with that. Um, Not so much like, oh my gosh, I don't know what dress to wear, but when you're putting things out on social media, the way that we play out our lives on social media right now, people are always looking for, I mean, just look at the comments. You see just how judgy and nasty people can be if you're not perfect. Now, on one hand, people love for people to be authentic, but as soon as you don't look the part, or as soon as like if you get some level of like popularity, then people start judging you and like, oh my gosh, I can't believe they're wearing that. I mean, they're supposed to have all this money. Well, why don't they do this? Why aren't they doing that? It can be a very it can be a difficult thing to show up again authentically on social media, because there's so many opinions out there. And it's easy for people to just say, well, you shouldn't care what other people think. But it's hard if, like, I could never. I also watch reality shows, and I look at the comments as to what happened. I can't believe these people are so nasty towards people on reality shows. First of all, those shows are produced. You don't always get the full story. They're edited in a way that is going to be messy because they're meant to entertain us. And the audience acts like they take it personally sometimes, acting like they know these people, and they don't. And I can imagine, I've seen people say, people on reality shows say that they've struggled with, wanting to unalive themselves because of all of the audience comments and all that sort of thing. So just be careful. I mean, if we as adults deal with that, and it affects us, we definitely have to look out and protect our kids when they're dealing with the same thing. Because we already know the kids can be cruel at school. It's a whole nother thing if the whole teenage world is trying to clown your child because of whatever the reason. So I just wanted to take a little bit of time to talk about that. Let's just be careful. Let's try to be kind. Um, I know there's a lot of memes out there. We try to be funny in the comments and stuff like that, but just watch it in terms of being cruel. Let's just be nicer. Okay, okay. All right, moving on. So, like I said, the girls decided not to go to the party, which I appreciate that because if something is causing you pain, anxiousness, um, and uh, if it's causing you harm in some way, I don't think you should subject yourself to it. So good for them saying, I'd rather stay at home. Okay, so when we're back at Robin's house, which is now 51 degrees. So she took Mia to the grandparents' house, and Ja brings over heaters so that she'd be warm. Now I know I shouldn't side eye him for this, but I'm lightweight side eyeing him for this because um he's bringing heaters as opposed to saying, "Hey, let's move you to someplace warmer." You know what I'm saying? And part of me was thinking like, well, if you took Mia to your to the grandparents' house, why didn't you just stay at the grandparents' house until it was, I don't know. It seems I'm not gonna stay in the house if it's just cold if you have somewhere else to go. So anyway, he asked about the restaurant. And Robin admits, she said, "Oh, hey, I told Harper about it." He said, "Okay, well, you may want to move fast, because it might go fast or whatever." So she said, "Oh, no problem. We're definitely planning on getting it." That's all she thought. So now, happy Golden New Year party. Everybody's at the Spivey home coming over for the golden party where they literally have cups or chalice made of gold. Really, Shelby? Anyway, so Murch and Candy, they were hemming and hawing about whether or not they should go. And Murch was like, for once, let's just enjoy ourselves. We're adults, just have our adult time, whatever. So they finally said, F the kids. And we're gonna go and enjoy ourselves at this party. So they had a great spread, including candy, of the edible kind. And they just began to have a good old time. Q starts putting his foot down with Kennedy, and this is the first time where we actually hear him address the fact that she does not call him dad. He said, "When are you gonna start calling me dad?" And she said she wanted some tickets to some event or whatever, and he said no because her grades are in the trash. And so she said, "Well, dads get their kids jingle bell tickets or whatever it was called." And he said, "Well, in that case, it's Mr. Cute then." Just, I mean, it's cute. The banter is cute, but it you can still see that they still respect each other. So he had a brief talk with LJ about telling Lance. LJ is still a little unsure about how to go about doing so. And then, they move on. So LJ and Kennedy are having their own little party area while the adults are at the main party. Lance talks about his new friend, aka Jasmine, and then Q reveals that he heard that Jasmine. Remember last time we found out that Jasmine was actually engaged, and Q revealed that I heard that she actually didn't get married. So in that case, make sure you holler at her. So Murch is high. He about to spill the beans about LJ. They were able to shut him up and move him around. Then Robin comes, shows up. Of course, she's there without Harper. So Harper was not in this episode. And they talked about how he was basically like in his writer's world, off somewhere writing, and he was nowhere to be found. All the friends had made reference to the fact that, well, you know how Harper gets when he's in his writing mode, all that sort of thing. So like I said, Jordan passed up Paris to come on the private jet. She doesn't want to be all in for Demetrius because she remembers how it was when she was, stigmatized whenever she did deal with him. But Robin says, well, what if it's going to be different this time? What if, you just need to give love a chance? So she ends up convincing Jordan to contact Demetrius. And then meanwhile, LJ and Kenny, they're having fun, they're chatting, talking about their dreams and everything. And LJ decides, new year, new me. Hell, I'm gonna go ahead and post me being myself. And they posted that video of them walking that we talked about previously, the one that Q walked in on. So now it's the countdown of New Year's. New Year strikes. Lance sends a text to Jasmine, Happy New Year. Oh, and to you and your husband, which he went fishing to see if whether or not she's actually married. Finds out that she is not. And then Demetria shows up to surprise Jordan. Unfortunately, Robin is alone. And then gets the bad news that Duke's, which was the restaurant that she wanted to get, sold. And this is where I give the side eye to Ja. He didn't say, Happy New Year. I want to talk to you after, let me know when you're available. None of that. You hit her with bad news at the new year. That is so, I'm thinking, like, really? But also, another thing that I noticed right before, because Lance is on the phone with Jasmine and he notices that Robin's alone. She went on the balcony, he went out to go check on her. The other thing that I noticed was that Harper did not even call her to say Happy New Year, check in, love you, and none of that. So I'm like, ooh, Robin, mm-mm. Yes, Robin, go ahead and go for yours. Do you? Don't worry about these folks. Like I said, Lance went out there to go check on him or check on her. And this is where she begins to cry and is very upset. Harper's always gone. He's always focusing on his dream, never focuses on me. And what kind of marriage is this? And then here come Lance with the good old, he's a good man, Savannah. He's a really good man. He caping for Harper, but this is not what it does not look good in this moment. He abandoned his wife pretty much. She got um her dream, the dream that she wanted. He didn't follow through on it to help her or anything. But moving on, Candy tells Shelby that she's in menopause. Of course, Shelby ain't trying to hear that. But you can see it's all over the place. She's got these hot flashes. And then all of a sudden, her phone rings with a Finsta account. So a Finsta account is like it's like a secret Instagram account, whatever. It's set up to it's a child monitoring app. So whenever your child posts, you'll be able to see what they post. So of course, the post that came through was of LJ walking with the makeup and the wig and everything, and being being 40 plus and not wearing her glasses, which I don't even know if Shelby has glasses or not, but she's like, oh, I can't see what this says. I can't see it. Can you see it? And Candy's like, no, I can't see it. We'll put it on the TV. They cast it to the TV, of course. And Lance sees it. She tries to turn it off. Lance sees it. He goes off, not goes off, but he's like, what? And y'all knew he goes off and goes off to talk to LJ. LJ then reveals that they are non binary. And although Lance is calm, it doesn't keep him really from being disrespectful. He was kind of disrespectful, mixing up orientation versus identity. And I felt like that just wasn't the time and place to be able to sit down and talk about it because obviously Lance is confused about the situation. But he's not trying to make like a big scene. But also, LJ has the right to be who they are, and they just really needed to sit down and have a real conversation. LJ asked if Lance can respect that because, of course, Lance is asking, "Well, are you gay?" And they say they don't know. Do you want to be a woman? Sometimes. And they notice that they are sometimes want to be masculine, sometimes want to be femme, and they recognize it's always them, no matter which one they want to be. So, asked if Lance can respect that. I'm not sure if Lance actually answered that, but basically he told LJ, take that ish off your face, the lipstick, and let's go. The alpha male came out completely. And he makes it about himself. Lance does. I don't understand this. What instead of talking to your child, talk to people. Conversations, communication. We all need it. So anyway, they left. Merchant Candy come home to their kids. I was a little bit confused about this scene, but it looked like the kids might have gotten into the herbs that Candy was experimenting with because the one girl they had shit eaten up everything. Other girl was clearly she was high and taking pictures and all that sort of thing. And finally they were like, good night. They weren't even feeling like dealing with it right now. But I think that, hey Elle, welcome. Welcome. We're talking about Best Man Holiday. Oh, not Best Man Holiday. I always say that. Best Man Final Chapters. We're on chapters 5 and 6. We're doing a recap, and of course, we're here to talk about it as well. So you know the deal already. Join in the conversation. Let's chat about it. And did you watch it? Did you get a chance to catch it? And while you're answering now, we'll go ahead and use this as a time to. I think I already have it up here. Oh yeah, yeah. So my scrolling thing is on there. So, but don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Like the page on Facebook if you're joining from Facebook. Um, but yeah, we're talking about this is episode 5, which is the party. And it was just revealed that to Lance that LJ is non-binary. Of course, he does not take it that well, unfortunately, and they've gone off. Now we're back to everybody's had a good time. It's after midnight now. Jordan takes Demetrius home. I guess she's no longer afraid uh to jump in the pool with him. And then Robin comes home. Lance called her a cab. Robin comes home. It's an empty home, but it is now 70 degrees. So at least the heat is fixed. But again, she had already gotten the bad news that the restaurant that she wanted had been sold. So, boo on that. It was to me, it was a testament that the fact that the heat was on, but the restaurant was sold was a testament that Harper takes care of business, right? He takes care of business that he sees to be important. Unfortunately, what it seems like to me is that what Robin's dreams are don't seem to be as important. And that's how episode 5 ended. So yes. So glad you made it. I'm glad you made it too. You still working? Okay, we'll check in. You still haven't watched. That's okay. I'm actually doing a recap. So that was episode 5. Good evening. Welcome. Hey, Sharice. Welcome. I'm so glad you made it over here. So, what did you think about chapter 5? That was the party. That's what we're talking about. Again, we're starting to get into the um the more difficult parts of final chapters. And I'm so sad. I wish it wasn't the actual final chapters because the way this series went, we could totally continue to follow them for more years and more years to come. But I believe that Terrence Howard, he has retired from acting. Excuse me. So I don't think he had any intention after this, but he really made an impact. Like I said, Q was my favorite character. Q and Shelby together are my favorite characters. Um, and yeah, we could continue to watch them, but we finally started to get into the mess and everything, finding out what's going on with people. So now we can go over to chapter 6. Did y'all have any final thoughts about chapter 5? Ooh, there we go. All right. Yes. I love Terrence too. I Q was just and it's so funny. He's so not well, he is different. He's different. He's I know that in the first one, of course, he always appeared to be like this spoiled jerk of a guy who was always like lurking with the secrets and stuff like that. But in truth, he was very, very he was just a truth teller. You know, he was one of those people that really wanted people to embrace who they were, just be who you are and just keep it moving. You know, he cares very deeply about his friends and family and uh it's just it was such a great I just love seeing Q, especially now, and seeing how he just speaks again, he just speaks right into people's hearts. Like he goes past all everybody's BS. And it's just like, no, I'm speaking directly to you, you know, and he doesn't let them off the hook. He tells them, hey, this is how it is, whatever. But then he just lets them decide. He doesn't try to like beat them over the head with like the truth or anything like that. He's just like, listen, I'm just telling you how it is. Okay. So then we move on to chapter 6, which is called an American marriage, which because we're going to be talking about the marriage between Robin and Harper, who are my least favorite characters. I feel like they had no business getting married. I'm digressing. I mean, I've talked about this in the previous episode. I mean, yeah, the previous episodes. They're just not my favorite. I feel like they had no business getting married. I should have added them. Y'all were on there. Y'all were on Instagram. We are talking about the black sitcoms and who shouldn't have gotten married. This is one. But also, we talked about this in terms of how, you know, I knew they were doomed from the beginning because the way he proposed, ugh, you know, I could not stand that. Proposing at somebody else's event, absolutely not. And don't hijack somebody else's event in order for you to have a special moment. I promise you, if you do that at my special moment, I'm going to ruin your special moment. Don't do that. Get your own moment, get your own venue, get your own time, and then you have your own special moment. But anyway, I digress. I said all to say I just don't like Robin and Harper, and I don't like them together. Period. Okay, so moving on, chapter 6, and they open up with "Just got paid." It's Friday night, but I have to admit, like this was a crossover. I was thrown off a little bit because I actually had walked out of the room, and when it came on, I was like, "Wait a minute, is Love and Basketball on?" Because to me, that's the theme song for Love and Basketball. You know, of course, Sanaa Lathan again. So I was really thrown off about another that other '90s classic, Love and Basketball, which used to be one of my favorite movies, y'all. Right? I used to love that movie, and I'm not saying I don't still love it. I still love it, you know. But I had to face the truth that it's highly problematic, and we're gonna talk about it on this channel. Oh, I feel a little congested, but anyway, we're gonna talk about it on this channel. The things that we loved about the '90s are things we still need to address about. Some of it just was not right. Okay, but anyway, moving on. So then the movie trailer comes on for Harper's book, Unfinished Business. And while Murch is practicing, he sees the trailer and sees that his character Cleavon and is immediately he's heated about it. He does not like the way he's portrayed in it, and he takes it out on the bag. You know, again, he's training for MMA fighting. So Harper comes home. This is after New Year's now. He's like, "Oh yeah, sorry you had to spend New Year's alone or whatever." And she was like, "Do you really think this is about New Year's?" And so they end up talking about the restaurant. And then when they had this conversation, this is where it is revealed. Harper thinks that Robin is flaky. And he didn't want to jump on this restaurant because she has a history. According to him, she has a history of being flaky. Now she was like, that was 20 years ago. He was like, no, that wasn't 20 years ago. Now, We haven't seen where she's acted flaky in the final chapters. Now we do realize that she was kind of flaky in The Best Man, but after that, I mean, I feel like she's been very committed to her food service, and they have a kitchen for that. And so he thought he was being supportive of her because she said, "Oh, you wanted to have the subscription service? We have the subscription service. Oh, you wanted a bigger, the kitchen. We want donations to go to the community. We did all of that." She's like, "I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about supporting my dreams." And they began to argue. So then they decided to go to couples therapy. So Robin reveals that she feels like Harper is always reaching. He's always reaching for something that's unattainable, always reaching for more. Never, like she said in Best Man at the very, very beginning, never really living in the moment. He's always reaching for the next thing, always reaching for the next thing. And she says she's tired of feeling like a backseat. You know, tired of being in the back seat, being the afterthought. But interesting, the therapist asked her, "Well, have you told him your feelings about this?" Nope. And she admits that she keeps it to herself. Again, another reason why they're not my favorites. They don't communicate well. Is very unfortunate. I don't understand. Um, Maybe I'm guilty of it as well. I know I have been guilty of being mad at people and not really telling them that I've been mad at them. But in truth, I don't really understand why we don't tell people, why we don't let people know how we're feeling about stuff. It could be a matter of pride where you're not gonna get me down, you're not gonna, catch me slipping, you're not gonna see me sweat, that sort of thing. But it could really be a misunderstanding. I mean, people could really not know that they've offended you. They could really not know that you feel like a back seat. Um, and I'm not giving Harper any kind of passes, but I still think it's fair to be able to say that he just didn't know. Also, we can say fairly that he just didn't care. Like he thought he was doing what a husband's supposed to do: provide a home, provide money, that sort of thing. But because they don't talk, she doesn't tell him how she's feeling, and he doesn't slow down to listen. They got a communication problem. So she admits that she keeps things to herself. Um, the therapist is like, "Well, your partner's not a mind reader." Here's Harper. "Yeah, I'm not a mind reader." But Robin countered with, "Yeah, I'm not a mind reader either, but I still consider you." And I think that that is something that we as Black women do all the time. We are always considering other people, even to our own detriment sometimes. We consider people that don't consider us. That's an issue and something that we should learn to address. Again, by communicating, telling people what we want, telling people what we don't want, telling people what we don't like. We can't be mad at how people treat us if we allow for them to continue to treat us that way. You haven't said anything, so they didn't think they were doing anything wrong. Now, once you tell them and they don't fix it, then we got another problem. Then we got to go. But in the meantime, I think everybody should give each other grace behind, communications in any kind of relationship, friendship, relationship, families, all that sort of thing. Because your assumption, your hope is that nobody is actually trying to harm you. So, okay. Now we're back to Murch and Candy's home, and we get a glimpse of Candy still working on this essay. She's now under the guidance of Dr. Temple, her beloved um, professor, and she's working really hard. Then we go to the Spivey house, and I love this scene because Shelby is, she kind of in her insecurity, and she's like, oh, basically, like she doesn't want to grow old, and no, I'm not gonna, what was it? Menopause is not gonna beat me, or whatever. He said, just age gracefully and let me love you. Yes, yes, let me love you. just as you are. We're growing old gracefully. We're all getting older. It's okay. It's okay. It is okay. I just loved it. I love the scene so much. I loved it so much. Just a testament of true love, true relationship. People can say a lot of things about Q and Shelby, but they communicate really well. And they love each other for who each other is. Like they don't have to sugarcoat nothing for each other. They don't have to pretend. They're just always themselves. That's why I love them so much. Okay, so if you are lucky, you will get on. Amen. Amen. And we do it gracefully. I mean, just embrace it. Embrace it. Cause I feel like I mean, not just because you're older doesn't mean that you're wiser, but you hope that you get wiser in that in that aging process, that you learn more about people, that you love people more, that you love yourself more. Yes. Yes, all of that. All of that. Okay. So then the guys, well, I love always seeing together. The guys meet up for their however their periodic game night where they play cards. And they were talking marriage and talking, what's going on with them, going on with the kids. And Murch, Julian, is missing. He's missing. Um, Harper brings up the trailer, asks if they had seen it, and has to admit that unfortunately he was not really part of the process. The producers just kind of took his notes and just went on about, putting it together. See, there's no way. That's so disrespectful. There's no way you're gonna take my piece of artwork and not work with me to make it into something else. I wrote a book, like in this case, we wrote a book and you go to make a movie about it. There is no way you're gonna do anything with my creation without me being on board for it. I'm trying to approve everything. And if we can't write that into our contract, then you can't have my piece of work. Like I I respect creative license. He's a book writer. He is not a movie maker. And I respect that too. But you would be walking me all the way through the whole thing. Show me how this movie is made. I'm sitting in casting. This is your baby. This is your piece of artwork. Unless you knew of a director who you knew personally who says to you, can give you some assurances that they're gonna do their best to make your piece of artwork shine on camera and not just sell it to the highest bidder, especially for black art, and then someone else or our counterparts get it and they want to make it something that it's not. They take out nuances that we know. It changes the story. It changes the outcome. So no, you can't take my artwork and just do anything you want to do with it. So I'm not saying I blame Harper necessarily, maybe he just didn't know, but there's just no way I would be crying about the fact that, oh, I'm not really part of the process. Oh no, you can't have my stuff unless I'm going to be part of the process. That's just how I feel about it. Okay. So then they bring up LJ, ask how's Lance doing for LJ. And then of course, Lance doesn't want to talk about it. He was like, I am not going to uh what did he say? I'm not going to let my son go over, you know, something about basically like he's going through a phase and because his generation is fickle. And this generation is Gen Z. And I don't think that Gen Z is fickle, and that's coming from somebody 40 plus. I don't think they're fickle. I think that they have decided that they're not going to put up with the bullish that we've put up with previously. there's this guy I follow on Instagram, Dre Brown, and he's a Gen Zer who is in he considers himself a corporate baddie, but he's like, I'm not getting ready to work 30 years for y'all, and you just gonna do anything and just say anything. No, he's making demands up front about certain things. And while I do think that you do have to ease yourself into some place, whatever, because if you coming in, if you're coming in entry level, there's no way you trying to make the big bucks. You kind of have to ease into that, whatever. But he was very clear about the skills that he did have, and making sure that you're not going to lowball me when I know that I have skills. So what I like about Gen Z is that they're not afraid to just be. They're not afraid to say what's ailing us. They're not afraid to, they're not keeping the secrets. They're not doing all that. Let's keep things hush, hush, hush. No, they're saying things out loud, things that we should have addressed probably generations ago. And I'm here for it. It doesn't always feel good and to hear it, see it, because of the generation I grew up in, but it's still refreshing to know that the new generation is not going to suffer in ways that we did because they're not going to stand for it. And I'm here for that. So I did not agree with Lance, but we also look at him. We know who he is, alpha male. He's very, barbaric. Is that the right word? Very man cave-ish. Anyway, moving on. I've talked enough about him. Murch calls and says basically, I ain't coming to the game, child. I'm not coming to the game, and I ain't come to the premiere either. So holla. I'll talk to y'all later. He is clearly upset about how he is being portrayed. I got a question for y'all. Should he be upset? Should Murch be upset about how he is being portrayed, I'm sorry, in Harper's book turned movie? After all, it is fiction, right? But how do y'all feel about it? I'd really love your response on this. Should he be upset? And go ahead and make it a real life scenario. Like if somebody wrote a book about your friend group, um, and you didn't like the way you were portrayed in it, would you be offended? Would y'all be offended? Now, I'm struggling. I'm not sure if I will be offended or not. It just it just depends. Part of me feels like it's just fiction. Yes, you would be offended. Part of me feels like it is just fiction. It's not actually my name, and they're supposed to be loosely based. Uh, but I don't know. It just depends on whatever the scenario was because I just this weekend I went to a movie that was supposedly loosely based on real life people and scenarios, and I can understand why a person might be offended for sure. They better have my offended cut off. uh, I'm not mad. I'm not mad at that. I'm not mad at that. I would expect my friend to protect me, my image and my reputation. I agree. I agree. But they're saying it's fiction. They're saying it's fiction, though. They're saying it's fiction. Indeed, friends supposed to have your back. I agree with that too. But they're saying it's fiction. This is this to me. Okay, this is how I feel. It for them. Harper spent so much time worried about how Lance was going to react that nobody ever bothered to look at Murch or Julian. And I think that is the reason why we're in the predicament that we're in now when it comes to Julian, because he feels like his friends don't respect him. Saying it is fiction sounds like a cop out. I can see that, but I'm just saying, like, for me, I'm more so on the side of I would probably be offended. Um, but it was also there's a difference now. Ouch. There's a difference now from it previously being a book. It makes me wonder, like, how was he actually portrayed in the book for them to have now made? I mean, did they make a caricature of his character, or he's just extra over the top? No, you had to. It had to be based on the book. So I'm wondering, like, okay, Julian, you read the book. You didn't take issue with how you were portrayed in the book, and now that it's going to be a movie, I'm not saying he shouldn't be offended. Again, I agree with all of y'all. If I do expect from my friends, family members, whoever, to protect me, and at the very least, you need to have a conversation with me about how that's going to go down. Because he what he could have done, yes, he wrote the book, but he could have had just like when Lance was like, hey, I want to know who's playing Mia. He could have extended that courtesy to all of them. How do you feel about, you know, this? How do you feel like it played out here? He could have had more of like a consulting group. If he is upset, there must be too many similarities. How does he know which character is supposed to be him? Well, oh, because that character was the one um, that was in a relationship with the one that was supposed to be Shelby. Yeah, I think it was very much a lot of similarities about how they were. It was very clear that, because remember back even in Best Man, he said, oh well, you could have made a brother more something. He said Murch had made reference to the book in the movie, the first movie. He made reference to, well, you sure didn't make your he said you sure didn't make your character sound um what did he say? Darn it. Anyway, he referenced his own character back in the movie. And so he did say something without actually saying something. Like he was offended. So the only thing I'm going to say about Murch is that I'm not saying he shouldn't be offended. He can be cool, but I'm gonna give him the same. Um, I'm gonna talk about him the same way I would Robin. People are not mind readers. If you don't say anything, how can you? What are you mad about? You can be mad, but tell them that you're upset about it. He has some responsibility. I felt like, because you didn't like the way you were portrayed in the book, you certainly could have said that. Not that it would have made a difference for the movie, but who knows? Okay, he should be upset if Harper is not protecting him. I agree with that, and we are going to see that play out because I felt. Remember, I already talked about Harper and how it is highly inappropriate for you to let them people just take your your artwork and just do whatever they want to do with it. And they called him. Remember, they called. Oh, I don't know if you know or not, but his um his publisher called him. The character in the movie is called Cleavon, and the publisher called him about Cleavon and said, "Hey, there's some updates for the Cleavon character." So it almost made it sound like they were looking to make Cleavon more of a simp than he already was in the book. So now that y'all say that and reminded me of that, he should definitely be upset. Uh, when they asked to make those changes about Cleavon's character or Murch's character, he could have went and had a conversation with Murch right then. and said, hey, they want to do this. How do you feel about it? Again, I felt like he spent so much time worried about Lance that he didn't care. Q don't care. But Murch, y'all never bothered to ask him, which is why he's so upset with y'all in the first place. So, okay. All right. So Lance is then in LJ's closet, finds LJ's boots, the fabulous ones that they wore last week, and was like, oh, God, please help me, help him. No, he just need to help you. Okay. And I'm not trying to go into it any further because child, stop. That's your child. And people have the right to be whoever they want to be. Okay, so anyway, Q runs into Murch on the street. They were supposed to meet up for lunch or something like that. And Julian wasn't trying to fool with him. He's like, I'm done. No, I'm about to go. But Q don't let people, he not gonna let you off. No, let's talk about this. Start talking about you gonna be at the premiere. Mm-mm. And he said exactly what y'all said. You, I thought that he said, oh, I'm supposed to be, oh, because Q said to him, you being a little sensitive, aren't you? Oh, here's Murch. Oh, I'm the sensitive one. Oh, now I gotta be a BAN all the time. He said, I hate the way y'all make me seem. Y'all make me seem like I always gotta be the soft one. I'm like I'm some punk. And how and he said, oh, you saw the premiere? He said, yeah, I saw the trailer. He said, and how it's one thing for y'all to, say whatever y'all was doing, whatever, and y'all had jokes, but y'all always got the jokes. At some point, the jokes need to stop, and not. I don't want to see myself portrayed like that in front of millions of people. He's like, y'all don't respect. He said, I thought that, have you ever had your manhood tested? He was like, of course. And I'm talking about by my friends, by your friends, by people who I thought respected me. So that is where he was. He was like, no, I'm not gonna participate in that. I'm not coming to that shit. I'm not gonna deal with y'all. He wrong. And while I understand his frustration, I feel like he should be saying this to Harper as well. Period. But he's done. He's like, y'all did all those jokes. And he did make him seem like they're always joking about him. They always did make him seem like the simp and the softy, and even when they were joking about him standing up to Shelby and all that other kind of stuff. But he did finally stand up to Shelby. He did finally say, I'm not dealing with you no more, Shelby. I don't have to be in this position. And that's where he met Candace. So Murch is upset. He's not coming. He is doing his own self-care. He is starting to compete in MMA. He's finding his own self. He's found his voice. And we're going to see much more from him on that. But I still feel like he should have that one he ripped into Q. He certainly should have gone to Harper to rip him one. Okay, so moving forward, Jordan is she's very curious about what Demetrius got going on. She still does not trust him. So she checked into his background. Her assistant comes in, says, you know what, you're fabulous. I love your business acumen. I love all that, but you suck at self-care. She goes into the boardroom. Jordan goes to the boardroom, is giving a presentation. In the middle of her presentation, she is pretty much blacking out. She goes into the sound, the, what did they call it? The silent room and the dark room, and finds out she has temporary blindness. Shelby busts in there and said, girl, you're going to the doctor. You need to set an appointment and go to the doctor because you're blind. But due to stress, she has, I guess, some kind of condition where she had a temporary blindness. Like, what? We have to address our health issues, especially as we get older. We can't, and I know that we have, as Black folks, we have a very complicated relationship with doctors and the medical arena, but we still have to learn how to listen to our bodies. We can't be blacking out in the middle of nowhere and not addressing when we have migraines and things like that because it could be something much more serious and we want to live. So, she asked her assistant, I mean, not assistant, she asked Shelby to do her a favor and to look into the company that Demetrius owns, Infinity Investments, right? Y'all finds out that it's a shell company that's a large investor in private prisons. She didn't trust him before. I would never trust him again. That would be an absolute no. I'm not going to get all extra political on that, but if you know anything about privatization of prisons and how it affects the black folks specifically, there will be, and for him to be black and own it, I would never date him again. I would definitely, we would be done for certain. Okay, so movie premiere. Oh, so in therapy, we're back to Robin and Harper. In therapy, they're talking, and the movie premiere comes up. Of course, Robin is proud of him, whatever, but then she reveals that she can't make it because there's a fundraiser for this organization, and her company has sponsored the fundraiser, and so she's like, "No, I'm not gonna be able to make it." When they sat down and talked about it, of course, Harper's like, "Well, you knew months ago that my premiere was at," there she goes again, not telling him, but there he goes again, only thinking about himself. Never once looked to see how important that fundraiser was to her. Do you think she did that on purpose? No, it was the only day that was actually available. So thankfully, they were able to compromise, but I think one compromised more than the other. But we'll talk about that later. Candy is still dealing with her essay, and Dr. Temple wanted her to come in, or actually, she asked to come in because he continued to have notes for her or whatever. But he didn't have a daytime; he had an evening time appointment. So she decided to go, which means that she was gonna miss the premiere. And she just assumed because Julian wasn't going to the premiere that he didn't have any other plans either. So they began to argue about the time. And Murch folded again. They have communication problems. It's one thing for them to say, I believe what they tried to do was they decided that once Candy went back to school, that he would take a bigger role in the home life, meaning taking care of the girls, doing more of the home stuff or whatever. But that doesn't mean just because we do that. I mean, it was like the roles were reversed because historically, women, even though we work, will still have to come home and cook and clean and do all this other kind of stuff. Um, and it was reversed this time where he was doing that. But it just goes to show you just how much your partner can take advantage of your time. I think that she took him for granted. She takes him for granted because when she just said, "Oh, I can't go take the girls to the etiquette, class now, so I'm gonna need you to take them," without even bothering to ask him if he had anything else to do. And he did. He was competing in an MMA fight that evening. Now, in all fairness, again, communication problems. Why did he not tell her, "Hey, one, I'm participating in this now"? First of all, but second, I'm busy. Nope, he folds fine. I didn't even like the conversation, the way that they had it. She was like, "You said you weren't going to the premiere, so I'm asking you as my, co-parent." I just didn't like the way that conversation went down. I feel like they need to do better about communication, and she's just very much um, all in with her paper and just not paying much attention to much else. Um, so now they're getting ready for the premiere. By starting to get ready for the premiere, we're at Lance's house, and he bought LJ a suit for the premiere. LJ puts on the suit and the cross that they were given, and they put their own flair to it. Like the ascot, it was kind of like an ascot shirt. It looks so good on them. And Lance made him made them go change. There was no reason. It looked really, really good. Anyway, they're at the red carpet premiere. Everyone's looking good. They decide to put aside everything else and just enjoy the evening. Jordan put aside um her thoughts about Demetrius as well as her health issues, and everybody decided to have a good evening. Meanwhile, Murch is competing in an MMA fight. And then at the same time, Candy is at Dr. Temple's office. Um, this is her professor, her beloved professor. He's supposed to be helping her with her essay, and he's helping her looking at her stuff. And I shouldn't have said it like that. He's looking at her paper and then begins to grope her. Just everything down the drain. That man you respected, that you have your whole now college history is in his hands, and just disgusting. So she's gathered her things, just upset, and then just left. So we'll see if she does anything with that information or with that at a later time. But for right now, she just went home and cried. Saw Julian laying on the couch, sleep, and I just feel like that's your husband. Why didn't you wake him up, tell him what happened, let him console you, let him comfort you. It just tells you all the different how in and out people can be in relationships, how complicated relationships could be. Because I'm just like, the first thing I would have did was ran home and told my husband, I like, you about to be my sounding board. I'm upset about this. Why do you have a spouse? You don't confide in them. You don't do what you're supposed to do. It's like they have kind of a business working relationship. Not, I don't feel like they've always been like that, but right now it just seems very business. So anyway, back to the premiere. Everybody they're looking all uncomfortable during the sex scenes. And you know what? You know what I couldn't understand? Which scene was it? Was it the scene between supposed to be Harper and Jordan's scene, or was it a scene between Mia and Harper? Because the kids, I just dropped my phone. The kids were kind of a little uncomfortable about it. But then we saw Demetrius side eyeing Jordan and Harper as well. So I'm like, well, which scene was it? So anyway, they go into the after party and they jam into High Five. Young Shelby comes over to take a picture with the real Shelby. Jordan and Harper are toasting. And Demetrius comes over, y'all, and attempts to get into a dang-a-lang swinging contest, talking shit with towards Harper. Just talking crazy, saying that, basically he was alluding to the fact that um the producers exploited Harper for his project, which they did. That's just how I feel about it. They did. But he didn't have the right to come over there and say that. He was rude as hell. And he didn't have to do all that. So when Jordan confronts him about it, um, she throws it back that he should know about exploiting Black people because of, you know, his company. And he wants to talk about it. She was done with him, which I'm so glad. So she was done with him. And then heads over to Lance. But before we head over to Lance, before that whole scenario went down, when, like I said, Demetrius said something crazy. Harper got up, like, what you say? So Lance kind of whisks him away, and they get to chatting about missing Mia and everything. And surprisingly, Harper just reminds him to keep God first. Because, of course, Lance was in kind of turmoil about his LJ situation. Harper reminds him to keep God first and to keep showing up and to keep showing love, and which reminds him, oh, I need to show up for my wife. So he ran out to go to her fundraiser to go support her. And then Lance runs over to Jordan. Or actually, Jordan came over to Lance because when she left Demetrius, she walked away. Because Lance had said something smart to her as well. So they started arguing about LJ. Her point is you need to accept your child for who they are. And LJ, I'm not LJ, but Lance was like, you need to stop with all the BS. You need to stop promoting or encouraging, BS. So anyway, she's like, look at your child. LJ was having a good old time dancing, everything. They was playing Heavy D and So for real, y'all. And then Harper shows up to Robin's fundraiser event. But I noticed y'all, John was not at the fundraiser. Why was that? I thought that was interesting. John was not at the fundraiser. And he acted like he was, you know, there for her. Anyway, they each got an invitation to the after party. And Robin encourages Harper to go ahead and go. But when they get to the place, come to find out it's only Jordan. Harper got the not that they're the only ones that got the invitation, but they were the only ones that showed up. And they decide, oh, okay, well, we can go for a walk and go and discuss the premiere without Robin. Meanwhile, Q and Shelby are at home. They've come home stumbling in drunk. They start playing striptease, and then all of a sudden, Q falls down to the ground. Unresponsive, not breathing, and Shelby has to call 911. And that's where it ends. So this one was, I feel like this was longer than usual, but it was just so many different layers of issues and situations in these two episodes. Again, this is where we really started getting into, the mess, the feelings, the non-feelings, the talks, the non-talk, the non-verbals. The main what I got from these two episodes is that it's important to communicate. It's important to communicate what you want. It's important to communicate what you don't want. And you can't afford to just assume things about people. And you also can't expect for people to be mind readers. You know, we also we also talked about the fact that if you wrote about me, it's really not fiction. And by the way, he wrote that book. He never asked any of them for permission or anything. Um, so I feel like the friends group gave him grace in the first place, in the first, back in the first movie when he wrote it in the first place. His thing was, but it's fiction. It's fiction. And it's the same thing that the author I told you about this movie I saw this weekend, y'all. They keep saying it was fiction. But allegedly it was based on real people and real things. People can be so messy. But hope you can trust your friends. Hope you can trust your friends. Hope you can trust your family members. If not, please do confront them. Because I do feel like people have the right to tell their own stories. But you don't have the right to take my story and tell it for me. And I feel like the least you can do is ask. The least you can do is talk about it. But also, just a warning: be careful of the part that you play in people's stories, so that they don't write a book about you. So anyway, that was Lighten Up with Latisha. I appreciate y'all joining me this evening. Please don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe to the channel. We're meeting here every Thursday. We're going live. We're doing both live on Instagram. I'm sorry, no, not Instagram. On both Facebook Live in the Lighten Up with Latisha page as well as YouTube. They go live at the same time. I appreciate y'all being here. Appreciate your participating. We had a pretty lively discussion today. I still don't know if I'd be too offended. It just depends. I guess it depends on what the story is, because again, it was great conversation. I appreciate y'all. We are discussing the final two chapters next week, 7 and 8. Uh, and they're doozies as well. So I look forward to it. All right, y'all have a good evening. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for joining me. Enjoy your week. And in the meantime, y'all, if y'all have any new um subjects you want to talk about, feel free to put it in the comments, even in the replay. And anybody watching the replay, make sure you comment and let me know what you thought of these two episodes. All right, have a good night, y'all. Bye.